السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وعنده مفاتح الغيب لا يعلمها إلا هو ويعلم ما في البر والبحر وما تسقط من ورقة إلا يعلمها ولا حبة في ظلمات الأرض ولا رطب ولا يابس إلا في كتاب مبين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحاب سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وصل عليه. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا رحمة للعالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Alhamdulillah, we continue our recitation and commentary on the Muqadimah of Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahmatullahi alayhi in the science of Tajweed. Alhamdulillah, in the previous lesson we discussed some points with regards to the biography of the Imam himself rahmatullahi alayhi, after which we discussed, gave a brief introduction to the text itself, to what we will be discussing throughout the text Muqadimah Jazariyah. So inshallah, alhamdulillah, we've discussed all of those details previously. In today's lesson, inshallah, we are beginning from line number 9 in the poem, which is the line, and from this point onwards he will talk about the makharij. So this is Babu Bayan al-Makharij. This is the chapter of the explanation of the makharij. So I'll just open up the slideshow for everybody to follow. And inshallah, if anybody has any questions throughout the lesson, they may type those questions, and inshallah, we'll try our best to answer them, inshallah. Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, Bayan al-Makharij. So, first of all, what is a makhraj? What is a makhraj, and what are the makharij? What are the makharij? And those that have the English rendition can follow on page 20, inshallah. Of the English version of Muqaddimah Jazariyah. So what are the makharij? First of all, makharij jam'u makhraj ismun li mawdi' al-khuruj wa huwa al-hayyiz al-mawlid lil-huruf. So makharij, this is the plural of the word makhraj, and it is the noun for the place of exiting, and it is that area where al-mawlid al-huruf, where the huruf are born almost. It is that place where the huruf are born, where they are originated from. So this is the meaning of makharij and the word makhraj. وَالْحُرُوفُ جَمْعُ حَرْفٍ وَمُرَادُهُ بِهَا حُرُوفُ الْهِجَاءِ لَا أَحْرُفُ الْمَعَانِي. So huruf are what? Huruf are the letters of the alphabet, what we call the huruf hija. This is the meaning of harf, not huruf ma'ani. So huruf ma'ani are particles which hold particular meanings. This is not the meaning of huruf here. Huruf here means huruf al-hija, the Arabic alphabet, the letters of the alphabet. So this is makharij, and these are the huruf. These are the huruf. So Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahmatullahi alayhi in the 9th line he says, مخارج الحروف 17 على الذي يختاره من اختبر. So he says, rahmatullahi alayhi, the points of articulation, the points of origin of the letters are 17, based upon the chosen opinion of man ikhtabar, those who research. So there are 17 points of origin for the letters, and this is the opinion of the majority of the ulama, and this is the Sahih al-Mukhtar, according to Imam Khalil ibn Ahmad, Makki ibn Abi Talib, Abu al-Qasim, Imam Abu al-Qasim, Imam Abu al-Hasan Shurayh, and many other of the muhakkikeen ulama from the science of tajweed have said that this is the correct opinion, that there are 17. Others have said no, like for example Imam Sibawayh, Imam Shatibi, they have said there are 16, and what they have done is they have taken the huruf jawfiyya, which is the letters of mad and leen, and they have made they've took that out. They haven't made that as a separate category of the origin point. So but this is just a difference of opinion between the ulama. But the sahih qawl and the strongest opinion is that there are 17, and this is the opinion of the muhakkikeen from the ulama of tajweed. Okay, so as you can see in front of you, there's a difference of opinion concerning the number of makharij. According to Imam Sibawayh, there are 16. Imam Farra says there are 14. Most scholars say that there are 17. This is the opinion advanced in this point by Imam Ibn al-Jazari. Now, the makharij which are mentioned, what is there? Where do they? What are we talking about? These articulation points? What is them? What are these places that they originate from? He said, ثم علم أن هذه المخارج المذكورة دائرة على ثلاثة حلق ولسان وشفة ويعمها الفم. So he says rahmatullahi alayhi that these makharij, 17 of them, they are all based around three particular parts, three areas where they will originate from. Number one, the halq, the throat. Number two, the lisan, the tongue. And number three, ash-shafa, the lips. وَيُعُمُّهَا الْفَمْ. And fam, the word fam, or referring to the mouth and the or the organs of speech, this incorporates all of them. So when you say fam, you're talking about the tongue, you're talking about the throat, you're talking about the lips. All of that is incorporated under the word fam. So this is where your makharij will originate from. So part of tajweed then, as we will discuss later on, is to know the parts of the tongue, what we call each part of the tongue, Ra'sul Lisan being the tip, and then you have the taraf, and you have the hafa. All of these are parts of the tongue. All of them will be discussed, inshallah. We will demonstrate them via the slideshow. So these are all parts of the tongue. Then you have your parts of the throat, the middle, the top, and the bottom, wast, the adna, and the aqsa of the halq. You have the teeth. So there's recognizing the teeth, thanaya ulya, all of these, the adras, all of these types of teeth. And the reason why we need to know all of this is because we need to know where the tongue goes in the mouth, which part of the tongue touches which part of the mouth, for that letter to come out with the correct pronunciation, So this is what we refer to as makharij, or the makhraj of the huruf. Okay, so without further ado, we move on to the first makhraj. So the Imam rahmatullahi alayhi, line number 10 of the Muqadimah, he says, فَأَلِفُ الْجَوْفِ وَأُخْتَاهَا وَهِي حُرُوفُ مَدٍّ لِلْهَوَاءِ تَنْتَهِي. So the alif is from the hollow mouth, and so are its two sisters, the waw mad and ya madda, and these are the mud letters which end in the air, So this is which letters is he talking about here? So the jawf is the makhraj for the first three mud letters. So the jawf is what we call the hollow, empty space in the mouth and the throat. That's what we call the jawf. That hollow, empty space, inside the mouth and the throat. That's all considered the jawf. Now he says something here which is important. He says these are the mud letters. Lil hawa'i tantahi. They end in the air. What is the meaning of they end in the air? So this is explained by Imam Khalil rahmatullahi alayhi. He says, إنما نسبت إلى الجوف لأنه آخر انقطاع مخرجها. So these are all connected, or they are called the jawfi letters, the letters of the hollow space in the mouth of the throat, and they are linked to the jawf. Why? لأنه آخر انقطاع مخرجها. This is the end of the where the makhraj will cut off. Okay, it is the ending point where the makhraj will cut off. So this is why we call them the jawfi letters. They end in the air. Okay, so in this origin point you have three. You have the alif madda, which is a alif preceded by a fatha. In the example in front of you on the slideshow, you'll see qala. So qala, alif madda, it's an alif preceded by a fatha, waw preceded by a dhamma, waturi. For example, waturi sinina. So waw preceded by a dhamma, ya madda is a ya preceded by a kasra, sinin. So that's ya preceded by kasra. These are what we call the huruf madda. and their origin point is the jawf. It is the hollow space in the mouth of the throat. So, for example, when you pronounce qala, that ah sound here with the alif, where is it coming from? It's coming from that hollow space in the mouth and the throat. Qala. Likewise, waturi sinina. When you say waturi sinina, tu, the oo sound, where is it coming from? It's the hollow space in the mouth and the throat. Likewise, sinin. When you say the e that is originating from the hollow space inside the mouth and the throat. So we call these then the huruf jawf. We call them hawaiya. We also call them jawfiya because they originate from the jawf. So the jawf is the first makhraj, the first origin point. Okay, I'll just check at this point if we have any questions from anyone, inshallah. Explain the difference in opinion of 28 and 29 letters of the alphabet. Okay, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim wa salli alayhi. So so the letters of the alphabet, all of the letters of the alphabet, there is a difference of opinion, although the majority of them, as we have already done, the majority of them, we say that there are 29 letters. This is the opinion of the majority of the ulama. Okay, we move on now to the second makhraj, inshallah. Aqsa al-halq. So the furthest part of the throat. So this is the second makhraj, second place of origin for the letters. So this is the aqsa al-halq, is the furthest part of the throat. So it's the part of the throat where the vocal cords are located. So the vocal cords sit above the windpipe in the larynx, and this is the makhraj of hamza and ha. So the imam in the commentary explains this by saying that فالهمزة والها من أقصى الحلق مما يلي الصدر وهو المخرج الأول من مخارج الحلق. So it is that part of the throat, the bottom part of the throat, مما يلي الصدر, which following which is the chest, following which is the chest. So it is that very bottom part of the throat following which your the chest will start. So here in our slideshow here it's explained as the part of the throat where the vocal cords are located. So this is where you get the letters hamza and ha from, hamza and ha. So this is aqsa al-halq, the second makhraj. We come to the next one then, third makhraj, which is the wastul halq. Wastul halq, the middle part of the throat. So the wastul halq, this is where you have the letters ayn and ha coming from. The letters ayn and ha originate from the wastul halq. So the wastul halq is the flap near the root of the tongue, just above the larynx, known as the epiglottis. And the function of it is to close the windpipe when the food is swallowed, to prevent it from entering the windpipe. When it closes, food is channeled down the food pipe, known as the esophagus. So that's just common knowledge. We all know that. That part of the throat, that part of the throat, the middle part of the throat, where this takes place, or where this will happen, where that flap is located, we call that part of the throat the wastul halq. So if you pronounce, for example, ayn, you'll be able to feel that vibration in the middle part of the throat. Likewise, when you say the word ha, you'll be able to feel that vibration in the middle part of the throat. However, there is something which we should mention here. وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْعَيْنَ قَبْلَ الْحَاءِ عِنْدَ الْجُمْحُورِ كَمَا نَسَ عَلَيْهِ مَكِّي. So in terms of makharij, Imam Qastallani mentions here that ayn is before the ha. Ayn is before the ha. So that's something important. So slightly before the pronunciation of the ha is the pronunciation of the ayn, the pronunciation of the ayn. So this is just a slight, very slight difference between the ayn and the ha. So this is the third makhraj, wastul halaq. Okay. So he explains here, the epiglottis can also be used to narrow the opening of the windpipe, and this causes the air to flow out of a tight space, creating the sound of the letter ha. And this is the makhraj of the ha and the ayn. So when the epiglottis narrows that opening of the windpipe, and the air floats out in a tight space, that's why when you pronounce ayn, it's almost as though there's almost like a tightening of the windpipe That is what is taking place here. Your epiglottis is narrowing, the opening of the windpipe. That is where you have your ha and your ayn originating from. So this is the wasful halq. Okay, we move to the fourth makhraj then, which is the adna al-halq. This is the nearest part of the throat. This is the part of the throat which is nearest to the mouth, just behind the uvula. So this part of the throat then, this is when you pronounce these two letters, the ghain and the kha. It's the back of the mouth, very very back of the mouth, and you know at the top, very top of the throat where the uvula is, almost where the phlegm originates from. That's why when you pronounce the ghain and the kha, you can almost feel that at the back of the mouth, at the top of the throat. So these are where you have your letters ghain and the kha coming from. The ghain and the kha originating from this part of the throat. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim wa salli alayhi. So in the Nazm, Imam Ibn al-Jazari has mentioned in line 11 and in line 12, line 11 and 12, for these makharij. He said, ثم لأقصى الحلق همز هاء ثم لوسطه فعين حاء أدناه غين خاؤها. So from the furthest part of the throat is the hamza and ha, and from its middle is ayn and ha, and from its nearest part, i.e. the nearest part to the top part of the throat, nearest to the mouth, that's the ghain and the kha, he says, rahmatullahi alayh. Okay, we come now to the tongue. The tongue has في اللسان 10 مخارج ل 18 حرفا. Okay, so you have 18 huruf from the letters of the Arabic alphabet, which are linked to the tongue. So you have 18 letters coming from 10 origin points, all which are related to the tongue. So 10 origin points related to the tongue, and then you have 18 huruf originating from those 10 origin points. So we're going to deal with all of them, inshallah. So before we do that, it's so important to understand, however, the different parts of the tongue, what we call them, the teeth, what we call those, and how we divide the upper palate of the mouth. So let's have a look at that before we move on, inshallah. So as we said, there's 10 makharij which we're going to deal with relating to the tongue, and 18 huruf. So this is an important section. It covers a lot of the letters, a lot of the makharij. Okay, so the tongue, you can almost split the tongue up into 3 main sections. The aqsa lisan, furthest part of the tongue. This is the very back of the tongue, close to the root of the tongue. Wastul lisan is the middle of the tongue, and then taraful lisan is the front part of the tongue. Then you have ra'sul lisan, which is the very tip, the very edge, the very tip of the tongue. That's ra'sul lisan. Hafatul lisan is what we call the side, and adna hafatul lisan is still the side, but this is it's the near part. So it's towards. So it's still the side of the tongue, but it's towards the front, where the taraf will begin. So these are the main parts of the tongue that we must consider, and this is important because you're gonna know when you're pronouncing certain letters, the aqsa lisan will touch this part of the palate, and the hafatul lisan will touch these teeth. So it's important that we know all of these parts of the tongue. Then you've got the teeth, asnan in Arabic. You've got the thanaya ulya, what you call your incisor teeth. They are thanaya ulya. You've got the dawahik, which you call the teeth which follow the canine teeth. Dawahik. They are those teeth which show when a person has dihk. So dihk means to smile. So the dawahik are those teeth which manifest and which become apparent when a person smiles, since they call dawahik. Then you have the tawahin and the nawajid. So tawahin are almost the premolars, and then nawajid, the molars or the wisdom, the wisdom teeth at the very back of the mouth. This is what you call the nawajid, the very back of the teeth, very back of the mouth. Collectively, these 3 categories are known as the adras. They are known as the adras. We call them the adras. And then you got the hanak, what we call the upper palate of the mouth. So it's that part, if you put your tongue at the top of your mouth, it's that bumpy part at the top of the mouth. the bumpy part, and then there's a smoother part towards the front. That entire palate at the top, we call that the hanak. Okay, the first thing you have to consider, the first thing that we talk about is the litha, which are the gums. These are the gums located behind the teeth, where the roots of the teeth are. We need to know that because certain letters, when you pronounce certain letters, the huruf lith'iyya, for example, lithwiyya, the huruf lithwiyya, these letters where the tongue will touch that part of the gum. Then you've got the muqaddam al-hanaq, the upper front palate above taraf al-lisan, also known as nit' al-hanaq. Okay, so that's the towards the front of the mouth, towards the front of the mouth. Huruf nit'iyya will originate from there. All of these, inshallah, we will deal with. Then you've got the al-hanaq al-azmi. This is the bony upper palate, which is the wast al-lisan, also referred to as al-hanaq al-sulb. And then you've got the soft upper palate, which is directly above the aqsa al-lisan, also known as al-hanaq al-rikhwa. Okay, so these are the parts of the mouth. And that's page 25 in the book. These, inshallah, a person should memorize them, and you can refer back to the textbook for all of these details, inshallah, and just memorize them so you know these parts of the mouth. So when these terms are utilized, and we know that, okay, these are huruf lithwiyya, so that you know that's going to involve the litha, which is the gums. Huruf nit'iyya, you know that's going to involve the nit' al-hanaq, which is the front upper palate. So you'll know where and these are letters originate from. So this is these are those parts of the mouth. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim wa salli alayhi. Okay, inshallah. We continue. So at that point, so we've just mentioned the makharij with relation to the throat, and we dealt with 6 letters there with the throat: hamza, ha, ayn, ha, ghayn, kha. We also dealt with the makharij of the makhraj of the jawf, where you have the 3 mud letters, the alif, the waw, and the ya originating from. So these are those letters. Now, after dividing the tongue up and understanding the different types of teeth and understanding the types of the parts of the mouth, we come now to the 5th makhraj. The 5th makhraj. Okay, and this is now. So we're dealing with all of the letters of the tongue. Dealing with the letters of the tongue now. So the first makhraj, which we're going to talk about, which deals with which is involving the tongue and the palate, involving the tongue and the palate, is the letter qaf. The letter qaf. تخرج من آخر اللسان مما يلي الحلق ومخرج الخاء ومخرج الخاء وهذا هو الخامس من المخارج. So where does the qaf come from? من آخر اللسان. آخر اللسان or أقصى اللسان. It is the very back of the tongue. مما يلي الحلق, which is just before the throat. Very back of the tongue, which is just before the throat. ومخرج الخاء, and just before the makhraj of the kha. So we know that kha comes from where? It comes from the very top of the throat at the very back of the mouth, where the epiglottis was. That's what we know about the kha. So your qaf will originate from مما يلي الحلق ومخرج الخاء, from that area, so the very back of the tongue, following which is the throat, and following which is the origin point of the kha. That's where qaf comes from. So the back of the mouth. So the back of the tongue, what will happen here? The back of the tongue will be raised to al-hanaqul lahmi, the upper soft palate. So I'll just turn back. The hanaqul lahmi, if you take a look, this is the upper soft palate, which is directly above aqsa lisan. So it's the you've got the entire palate. It's the back part almost, which is in between the molars. That's what we call al-hanaqul lahmi. So when you say qaf, for example, qa, you can feel the impact of the back of the tongue with the upper soft palate. So you say qaf, and you can feel that. And of course, qaf is a letter of isti'la, so it will be pronounced with a full mouth. So qaf, qaf. If a person pronounces that, you can feel the tongue, the back of the tongue raising up to the upper soft palate. So this is the makhraj of the qaf. That's not a very difficult letter to pronounce. Following the qaf then, المخرج الثاني من مخارج اللسان وهو السادس من المخارج الكاف وتخرج من آخر اللسان من أسفل مخرج القاف قليلا. So he says rahmatullahi alayhi that the second this is the second point origin point from the tongue, second origin point from the tongue, and the sixth origin point in total. Okay, so we said that the tongue has how many makharij? The tongue has 10 makharij. So this is number 2 from those 10, and it's number 6 from the total, from all of them, from all 17. So this is the letter kaf, the letter kaf, letter kaf. وتخرج من آخر اللسان من أسفل مخرج القاف قليلا. So where does this come from? It comes from, again, the آخر اللسان, so it is, or أقصى اللسان, both referring to the same thing. It's the back of the tongue. It's the very back of the tongue, but you raise that towards الحنق اللحمي again. Okay, so you raise it to the حنق اللحمي. However, he says من أسفل مخرج القاف قليلا. أسفل مخرج القاف قليلا, meaning what? Meaning it's towards the more towards the front of the upper soft palate than the qaf was. So the qaf was at the very back of the upper soft palate, just before the throat. The kaf, however, is slightly forward, slightly more forward in the with regards to the upper soft palate. This is where the kaf will come from. So min asfali makhraj al-qafi qalilan. All right, so from just towards the front of the upper soft palate, just above, just slightly forward than the qaf. So if you take a look at the diagrams, for example, on this one with the qaf, it's slightly further back. With the kaf, it's slightly forward. That is what we are referring to here. So it's a slight difference. So kaf, and kaf has the quality of istifal. Sifat we're going to deal with inshallah in the coming lessons. So it's a smiley letter. So kaf. So you have qaf and then kaf. So these are those two letters. So qaf and kaf. Okay, this is line number 12 and 13 in Muqadimah Jazariyah. So what does the Imam say? Rahmatullahi alayhi. He says, والقاف أقصى اللسان فوق ثم الكاف أسفل. So he says rahmatullahi alayhi that the qaf is the furthest part of the tongue, raised, so the aqsa lisan or the akhirul lisan, raised to the palate above al-hanakul lahmi, as we explained. Then the kaf is lower than the qaf, lower than the qaf. What does he mean lower than the qaf? He means asfal min al-qaf means it's slightly forward. The touching of the furthest part of the tongue is slightly forward in relation to the palate than the qaf. The qaf is further back. This is the meaning of asfal min al-qaf. This is the meaning of asfal min al-qaf. Okay. So that is qaf and kaf. So we've done 6 makharij so far. Okay, we come now to number 7 in total. Number 7 in total, but this is number 3 from the makharij of the tongue. So this is number 3 from the makharij of the tongue. So المخرج الثالث من مخارج اللسان وهو السابع من المخارج الجيم والشين والياء. Okay, so أعني غير المادية مخرجهن من وسط اللسان وما بينه وبين وسط الحنق. So the Imam explains rahmatullahi alayhi that the 7th makhraj we have here is the wastul lisan al hanaqul azmi. So this is the middle of the tongue now, the middle of the tongue and the upper hard palate of the mouth, upper hard palate of the mouth. And here then you have 3 letters which originate from this point: the jim, sheen, and ya. Jim, sheen, ya. Okay, now with these 3, you will notice when you pronounce jim, for example, this jim is a good one to do this with. If you say jim, jim, when you do that, when you say that, you will feel the impact of the tongue is almost raised, it's curved and raised, and the middle of the tongue, what we call wastul lisan, impacts al-hanakul azmi, the hard upper palate of the mouth. So that is jim. Okay, and then you've got sheen, and you've got ya. They also come from the same origin point. So jim, sheen, and ya. So he says مخرجهن من وسط اللسان وما بينه وبين وسط الحنك. Okay, so the makhraj of these three letters is from the wastul lisan, the middle of the tongue, وما بينه وبين وسط الحنك. So, and that which is between it and between the middle of the hanak. So if I go back to the diagram, okay, you've got here this middle part, which is the bony upper palate, which is above the wastul lisan, also referred to as al-hanaq as-sulb. This is the area that we are talking about. This is the area we are talking about. So that is where the tongue will come into contact with, giving you your jim and your sheen and your ya. Jim, sheen, and ya. Okay, we continue then, inshallah. So that was the seventh makhraj. The seventh makhraj. We come then to. So the Imam says this in line number 13 of the poem. وَالْوَسْطُ فَجِيمُ الشِّينُ يَا وَالْوَسْطُ فَجِيمُ الشِّينُ يَا. So from the middle of the tongue is what? From the middle of the tongue, wastul lisan, is the jim, the sheen, and the ya. This is the origin point of these three letters. Move on to the next one then. Number 8 in the makharij, and number 8 in total, and number 4 from the origin points of the tongue. So this is the 4th makhraj of the tongue, the 8th makhraj in total. المخرج الرابع من مخارج اللسان وهو الثامن من المخارج الضاد تخرج من أول حافة اللسان وما يليه من الأضراس من الجانب الأيسر وأيسر أكثر استعمالا وكان عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه يخرجها من الجانبين. Okay, we'll explain this inshallah. So the 8th makhraj, this is the left or the right side of the hafatul lisan and the adras. So left or the right side, both are used, but Imam Qastallani mentions the left side is used more frequently. However, Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu an yakhrujuha min al-janibain, he would pronounce them from both sides. Okay, so the 8th makhraj. So this is for the letter dad. So with dad, you pronounce this by raising the left or the right side of the hafatul lisan to al-adras. And we've talked about adras. Adras are your molar teeth. So remember the adras were divided into 3 categories. We'll just go back and address that. Adras were the dawahik, the tawahin, and the nawajis. So you have the teeth which follow the canines, and you've got the premolars, you have the molars. So these are all collectively known as the adras. So they are the adras. Okay. When you raise the left or the right side of the hafatul lisan, so hafatul lisan, remember, was the side of the tongue. So I'll just go back and show you from the. So hafatul lisan is this side of the tongue here. So when that side of the tongue is raised and it impacts these teeth, the adras, this is where you get the letter dad from. And it may come by raising the left side or the right side of the hafatul lisan. So dad, you may raise the right side, or dad, and you may raise the left side to impact those teeth. Both will give you the sound of the dad. So this is where the letter dad will come from. So the left or the right side of hafatul lisan applies pressure on the inside edge of the adras teeth, and the front part of the tongue will also touch the dotted area without pressure. So when you say dad, for example, there's pressure, there's an impact, a stronger impact between the hafatul lisan, the sides of the tongue, when it touches the adras teeth. However, the front part of the tongue will touch the front of the mouth. When you say dad, for example, it will touch the front of the mouth, but it will be without pressure. It will just be a slight touch. So if you pronounce dad, for example, you can feel that. Dad. There is an impact, a stronger impact with the teeth and the tongue as compared to the tongue with the front part of the mouth. So this is the 8th makhraj, the makhraj of ضاد. So the Imam explains that here تخرج من أول حافة اللسان وما يليه من الأضراس. So it is the side of the أول حافة اللسان. It is the side of the tongue, the beginning of the side of the almost the front part of the side of the tongue. وما يليه من الأضراس, and then those teeth which are parallel to it. It is an impact between those two, and this is what you get, where you get your ضاد from. The letter ضاد, Arabic is called the language لغة الضاد. It is the only language in the world which has the sound ضاد to it, and it is a difficult letter to pronounce, for especially if we're learning tajweed, new. It is somewhat of a difficult letter to pronounce. It takes practice. So inshallah, this is something that a person can practice to perfect, inshallah. So this is mentioned in line number 13 and 14. What does the Imam say, rahmatullahi alayhi? He says, وَالضَّادُ مِنْ حَافَتِهِ إِذْ وَلِيَا الْأَضْرَاسَ مِنْ أَيْسَرِ أَوْ يُمْنَاهَا. So the ضاد is from its edge of what? Edge of the tongue, side of the tongue. إِذْ وَلِيَا الْأَضْرَاسَ مِنْ أَيْسَرٍ أَوْ مِنْ أَيْسَرَ أَوْ يُمْنَاهَا. So it's when it meets إِذْ وَلِيَا, when it meets al-adrasa, when it meets the molar teeth, from its left or right side. من أيسر أو يمناها. والأيسر أكثر استعمالا. The left ضاد, he says rahmatullahi alayhi, Imam Qastalani, is used more frequently than the right side. Okay, now we come to makhraj number 9. So this is number 9 in total, and number 5 from the tongue. So this is the 5th makhraj of the tongue, and out of the 10, and this is the 9th makhraj in total. So what is this? المخرج الخامس من مخارج اللسان وهو التاسع من المخارج اللام، وتخرج من أول حافة اللسان من أدناها، أي أدنى حافة اللسان، وهي جانبه إلى منتهى طرفه وما يحاذيها من الحلق الأعلى مما فوق. Okay, so the 5th makhraj then. From the tongue, 5th makhraj from the tongue, and the 9th from in total. What is this? We are now talking about the letter lam. We are talking about the letter lam. وتخرج من أول حافة اللسان من أدناها. So from the beginning of حافة اللسان to أدنى حافة اللسان. So we said that حافة اللسان is the side. So it is from the beginning, so from the front part of the side of the tongue, from أدنى حافة اللسان, and that is وهي جانبه إلى منتهى طرفه وما يحاذيها من الحنق الأعلى. So it's in that entire side, وما يحاذيها من الحنق الأعلى, and that which is parallel to it from the حنق أعلى. So I'll go back to the diagram. Hopefully this should become slightly more clear when we go to the diagram. Where are we? Okay, so here we have the tongue. So the adna hafat al-lisan, it is the near part of the tongue where taraf al-lisan starts. So it is this area we are talking about, adna hafat al-lisan here. This is what we call adna hafat al-lisan, the near part of the side. So the entire side we call that hafat al-lisan. Adna hafat al-lisan is the near part where your taraf will start from. So it's the near part towards the front of the tongue. This is what we call the adna hafat al-lisan. This is where you get the letter lam from. You get the letter lam from this makhraj. So we go back to the 9th makhraj then. So it's pronounced by connecting the left side of adna hafat al-lisan until the right side adna hafat al-lisan to the gums of the upper teeth. Okay, so when you pronounce gums of the upper teeth, so when you say lam, what you feel is your hafatul lisan on the right side and hafatul lisan on the left side. What happens? Lam, it is raised and it comes in contact with the gums of the upper teeth. This is what he means here by وَهِيَ جَانِبُهُ إِلَى مُنْتَهَى طَرَفِهِ. Okay, so that's it's talking about the side of the tongue. The side of the tongue until the end part of the taraful lisan. وَمَا يُحَاذِيهَا مِنَ الْحَلَقِ الْأَعْلَى مِمَّا فَوْقِ. And it's that which is parallel to it or in line with it from the upper palate towards the front. So in other words, the gums of the upper teeth, that area of the gums of the upper teeth, behind the upper teeth, that area, when the tongue comes in contact with that, this is that makhraj. So lam, la, la, the tongue comes in contact with that part. So this is the meaning of, or this is the makhraj of the lam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim wa salli alayhi. Imam Ibn al-Jazari mentions this in line number 14. He says, Rahmatullahi alayhi, وَاللَّامُ أَدْنَاهَا لِمُنْتَهَاهَا. And the lam is from its adna, from the near edge, until its end, i.e. the tip of the tongue from both sides. Okay, so from the adna hafatil lisan to the muntaha hafatil lisan. So that area from the near edge until the end of the hafatul lisan, that entire part, those sides of the tongue, the left and right, lam, they will come in contact with the upper palate towards the back of the two front teeth. Lam, lam. And that is where your lam will originate from. Okay, so that's makhraj number 9. Makhraj number 10. So makhraj number 10 in total. Makhraj number 6 from the makharij of the tongue. المخرج السادس من مخارج اللسان وهو العاشر من المخارج النون وتخرج من طرف اللسان وهي عبارة عن رأسه بينه وبين ما فوق الثنايا. So he says then the 6th makhraj of the tongue and the 10th in total is the noon. The noon. Where does this come from? تخرج من طرف اللسان. It comes from the طرف اللسان. Remember the طرف اللسان. We go back to the diagram. طرف اللسان is here. It is the front part of the tongue. We call that طرف اللسان. So noon is involving this part of the tongue. So if you keep that in mind, we go back to the page now. So it's the front part of the tongue, and when the front part of the tongue connects to what? Connects to the litha. The litha. So the gums of the upper incisors. This is where you get, so noon. So the upper teeth, the front teeth, the gums behind them, what we call the litha, your noon comes in contact with that when you pronounce, your tongue, comes in contact with that when you pronounce the noon. So you say noon, and this is the makhraj of the noon now. Makhraj of the noon. So he says, وَهِيَ عِبَارَةٌ عَنْ رَأْسِهِ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ مَا فَوْقَ الثَّنَايَا. Okay, so طرف اللسان means what? It means the front part of the tongue. بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ مَا فَوْقَ الثَّنَايَا. بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ مَا فَوْقَ الثَّنَايَا. So between it and ma fawqa thanaya, that which is just above just above, i.e. Follows the two front teeth when they come in contact with one another. So this is the noon. Okay, now there's an important thing which you must understand here, which the Imam notifies us of, which is the difference between the noon and the lam. Noon and the lam. So we've said that noon is taraful lisan and the gums behind the two front teeth, and we said with regards to the noon, with regards to the lam rather, it is the hafatul lisan on both sides come in contact with the gums of the upper front teeth. So there's a very similar origin point. However, there's a difference between them. Now Imam Ibn al-Jazari explains this. He says, when you take a look in the poem, he says, وَالنُّونُ مِنْ طَرَفِهِ تَحْتُ جَعَلُوا تحت جعلوا. So this is very important. What he's telling us here is that تحت جعلوا, he's saying make the noon lower than the lam, making the noon lower than the lam. What does it mean lower than the lam? What he's referring to here is it's further out in the mouth, more towards the front teeth, more towards the front teeth. So the noon is closer to the front teeth than the lam is. So when you pronounce lam, you will find that the tongue is slightly further back. When you say noon, the tongue is slightly closer. This is what he says when he says tahtu ja'alu, make it lower. وَالنُّونُ مِنْ طَرَفِهِ تَحْتُ جَعَلُوا, make it lower than the lam. This is what he's referring to. he's referring to make the noon, when pronouncing the noon, make the tongue closer to the two front teeth as compared to the lam. As compared to the lam. So that's what he says, rahmatullahi alayh. ما فوق الثنايا أسفل اللام قليلا. أسفل اللام قليلا. Lower than the lam, i.e. closer to the two front teeth. The tongue is closer to the two front teeth. This is the meaning of تحت جعلوا in the poem. So this is what the Imam is saying, rahmatullahi alayh. All right, there's two other differences here which we'll notify of. Number one, lam is pronounced using the hafatul lisan, whereas the noon is pronounced using taraful lisan. So we explained that already. So hafatul lisan, the sides of the tongue, whereas noon is the taraful lisan, which is the actual front part of the tongue, the front section. And number two, air does not flow through the khayshum in lam. When you pronounce the noon, some of the air will flow through the khayshum as well. So when you pronounce noon, you'll feel the air flow through the khayshum, the nostrils. You will not feel that through the lam. So this is a difference between the noon and the lam in pronunciation. All right, we come to number 11 now. The 11th makhraj, which is the 7th makhraj from the tongue, the 11th makhraj in total. So al-makhraj al-sabi'u min makharij al-lisan wa huwa al-hadi ashar ar-ra. وتخرج من مخرج النون من طرف اللسان بينه وبين فوق الثنايا العليا لأنها أدخل في ظهر اللسان قليلا. لأنها أدخل في ظهر اللسان قليلا. So this is an important part here. The Imam, so 11th makhraj, طرف اللسان and the litha, the gums of the upper front teeth. So طرف اللسان, front section of the tongue, litha, the gums just before the beginning of the roots of the upper front teeth. This is what you're looking at. Ra. Okay, this is the makhraj of the letter ra. So it's the front of the tongue and the gums which are just before the roots of the teeth. So you connect your front part of the tongue, the taraful lisan, to the litha of the upper thanaya, but slightly further in dhahrul lisan compared to the noon. What is dhahrul lisan? The entire top surface of the sun, we call that dhahrul lisan. So when he says rahmatullahi alayh لظهر أدخل, it's further in dhahrul lisan. What he means here is you will find that the ra and the noon are close to one another, but they are close to one another, but the ra extends further into the mouth in comparison to the letter noon. Okay, ra extends further into the mouth in comparison to the letter noon. For example, when you pronounce the word noon, the tongue will not go as further on the surface. The tongue, it's not as further on the surface of the tongue as the ra. So when you pronounce ra, it is further in dhahrul lisan. On the surface of the tongue, it's slightly further. Okay, so this is a difference between ra and noon. So he says وَتَخْرُجُ مِنْ مَخْرَجِ النُّونِ. It actually comes from ra, comes from the makhraj of the noon, min taraf al-lisan, from the front part of the tongue, بينه وبين فوق الثنايا العليا, between it and between the gums which are above the top front teeth. لأنها أدخل في ظهر اللسان قليلا. It's just slightly forward on the top surface of the tongue, slightly forward than the noon. So this is the difference between the ra and the noon. The ra and the noon. So on the slide here, this is what he mentions. Makhraj of the ra is after the makhraj of the noon, but the area of dhahrul lisan used for the letter ra extends further into the mouth in comparison to the letter noon. Therefore, a great part of the dhahrul lisan is used for the letter ra compared to the letter noon. So it's further, extends further into the mouth. The letter ra extends further into the mouth as compared to the letter noon, which is not as further into the mouth. Okay, I hope that was clear, inshallah. Let's see if there are any questions with regards to that. Okay, inshallah. I hope all of that is clear so far. How do you stop yourself pronouncing lam heavy? Lam should not be pronounced heavy except if it is the lam of the ismul jalala. So if it's the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and it's with a dhamma or a fatha, then you say Allah or Allah. However, otherwise lam should not be pronounced heavy. It will be pronounced light. It will be pronounced light. Okay, we continue then. So this was the 11th makhraj. We come to number 12 now. So number 12 in total and number 7 from, or rather number 8, sorry, from number 12 in total, number 5 from the tongue. Rather, my apologies, it's not number 5, it is number 8. Number 8. So al-makhraju thamin. There's a misprint in the text. It says the 5th, it should say 8th. Al-makhraju thamin min makharij al-lisan. So it is the 8th origin point from the origin points of the tongue. وهو الثاني عشر من مخارج. It's the 12th makhraj. And what is that? At-ta wad-dal. So at-ta and dal. Wat-ta. So these three. Ta, ta and dal. Okay, this is the taraful lisan. Which again, as you know, is the front part of the tongue now, and it's the roots of the upper thanaya, the roots of the incisor teeth at the very front of the mouth, the roots. So this is the makhraj for 3 letters, ta, ta, and dal. They are pronounced by connecting taraful lisan, which is the front of the tongue, with the roots of the upper thanaya, the roots of the incisor teeth, as opposed to the gum. So previously with the ra, for example, we talked about how it touches the litha. You had with the noon where it touches the upper, it also touches the litha. Here now, with these letters, it is not the litha, not the gums, but the actual roots of the incisor teeth themselves. So this is the difference. So ta, ta, and dal, with the contact of the tongue will be the taraful lisan will be with the roots of the incisor teeth. It will not be with the litha, with the gums, as it was with the ra and the noon. Okay. Therefore, the tip of the tongue will touch the inside of the upper thanaya, whereas in the previous makharij, that did not happen. So we've just explained that. So it will touch the inside of the upper incisors with the ra and the noon. That did not take place. Okay, so ta, ta, and dal. Ta, ta, and dal. So this is line number 16 in the poem. So the Imam says, Rahmatullahi alayhi, wa ta, wa dal, wa ta minhu wa min. عليا الثنايا والصفير مستكن. We'll deal with that last part later. So he says the ta, dal, and ta, or ta, dal, and ta rather, are from the طرف اللسان. منه يعني من طرف اللسان, and from ومن عليا الثنايا, from the upper incisor teeth, i.e. the roots of the incisor teeth. So this is what the Imam Qastallani mentions here. مخرجهن من طرف اللسان مما بينه وبين أصول الثنايا العليا. So he says, Rahmatullahi alayhi, their makhraj is the taraf of the lisan, the front part of the tongue. مما بينه وبين أصول الثنايا العليا. Between it and between the roots of الثنايا العليا, the roots of the upper front teeth, the upper incisors. So when they come into contact, you will be able to pronounce the ta, the ta, and the dal. Ta, ta, and dal. Okay. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. We come now then to number 13. So number 13 in total and number 9 from the makharij of the tongue. So al-makhraj al-tasi'u min makharij al-lisani wa huwa al-thalith ashara min al-makharij huruf al-safir al-thanaya al-ulya. Huruf al-safir al-thanaya al-ulya. Okay, so these letters now, this is number 9 from the makharij of the tongue, 13 from the makharij in total. These are what we call the huruf safir. Safir is one of the sifat of the letters which we are going to deal with, and it is the sifa. It is the sifa of whistling. So when you pronounce these 3 letters, which are called the huruf safiriyah, they are pronounced with a whistle. So you have za, sin, and sad. So that whistling sound is produced when pronouncing these letters. So where is the origin point of this? the origin point of these is when your ra'sul lisan, so the tip of the tongue, just above the lower thanaya but not touching. So it's just above the lower incisor teeth, but it doesn't touch them. So for example, when you say za, za, it's not coming in contact with the lower front teeth, lower incisors. However, it's just above. Likewise, seen, the same thing is experienced there. And likewise, sod, and sod is very good. You can feel that whistling sound very well with the letter sod, Okay, so these are the letters of Safir, which come from the Thanaya as-Sufla. They come from the lower incisor teeth. So za, sin, and sod. So this is the 13th makhraj. Okay, we come now to number 14, and this is the 10th makhraj of the tongue, which is the final makhraj of the tongue. Now, before we do that, we just read through the line of the poem. The line is 16 and 17. The Imam says, so was-Safir mustakin. This is the previous line, line number 16. Minhu wa min fawqa thanaya as-sufla. Okay, so the Safir letters za, sin, and sad come from the ra'sul lisan, the tip of the tongue. Okay, when it is above the lower incisors, fawqa thanaya as-sufla, when it is above the lower two front teeth. Okay, we move on to the number 14. This is the final makhraj then of the makharij of the tongue. So al-makhraj al-ashiru min makharij al-lisan wa huwa al-rabi' ashra min al-makharij al-dha wal-dhal wal-tha. So you've got 3 letters now from this point, and this is the taraful lisan, and taraful lisan is the front part of the tongue, the front section of the tongue, and the edge of the upper thanaya, the edge of the upper incisors. So he says, وَيَخْرُجْنَ مِنْ طَرَفِ اللِّسَانِ وَطَرَفِ الثَّنَايَا الْعُلْيَا. So they come from the taraful lisan, it comes from the front part of the tongue, front section of the tongue, وَطَرَفِ الثَّنَايَا الْعُلْيَا, and it comes from the edge, طَرَفِ الثَّنَايَا, the edge of the upper incisors. So this is where you get dhal, tha, and dha. So when you pronounce these letters, tha is a very good one. When you pronounce tha, you will feel the front part of the tongue, you will feel it touching the inner edge of your upper incisors. When you say the letter tha, this is where you get these 3 letters from. Tha, then you have dhal, very, very close. And then dha. Now dha, the tongue is put in the same place. The only difference is that dha is a letter of isti'la. So it'll be a letter which is pronounced with a full mouth. All right, so that is the final makhraj of the tongue, the 10th, number 10. Okay, we come now. So he's explained this in line number 17. وَالضَّا وَالذَّالِ وَالثَّالِ الْعُلْيَا مِنْ طَرَفَيْهِمَا. So dha, dhal, and tha from the upper incisors, from both of their edges. Yani the edge of the tongue and the edge of the teeth. Okay, so taraful lisan and tarafu al-thanaya al-ulya. All right, 15th makhraj then. So the 15th makhraj, and this is now this is now the 15th makhraj in total, but this is the first makhraj from the makharij of the lips, min makharij al-shafa. So it's al-makhraj al-awwal min makharij al-shafa wa huwa al-khamis ashar min al-makharij. So the first origin point from the origin points of the lips, and the 15th from the makharij in total. So the 15th in total. What is this letter? Fa. وتخرج من باطن الشفة السفلى وأطراف الثنايا العليا. It exits from the inside of the lower lip and the edges of the upper incisors. Inside of the lower lip and the edges of the upper incisors. So when you say fa, for example, fa, you will feel the inside of the lower lip, the wet part of the lower lip almost. It comes in contact with the edge of the upper thanaya, and then you get fa when you say that. So this is where you get, this is the origin of the letter fa. So the Imam says, rahmatullahi alayhi, وَمِن بَطْنِ الشَّفَّةِ فَالْفَاء مَعَ أَطْرَافِ الثَّنَايَا الْمُشْرِفَةِ. So from the inside of the lower lip, the wet part of the lower lip, the fa is pronounced with the edges of the upper incisors. Okay, so this is your fa. 16th makhraj, number 16, and this is the second makhraj of the lip. So al-makhraj al-thani min makharij al-shafa wa huwa sadis ashar min al-makharij. Number 2 from the makhraj of the lips, 16 from the makharij in total. Al-waw wal-ba yakhrujna min bayn al-shafatayn al-ulya was-sufla. These two letters come from what? They come from between the الشفتين العليا والسفلى. So the upper and the lower lip, upper and the lower lip, they are both used. So this is number 16. Then you have wa and you have waw, ba, and waw, ba, and meme also coming from this. Also meme coming from this origin point as well. So waw, meme, and ba, they all come from with both lips coming into contact. So ba, waw, meme, you will find both lips are used when pronouncing these letters. So he says فَيَنْطَبِقَانِ عَلَى الْبَاءِ وَالْمِيمِ وَيَنْفَتِحَانِ عَنِ الْوَاوِ وَيَنْفَتِحَانِ عَنِ الْوَاوِ. So he says rahmatullahi alayhi, it's an important difference between ba and then and meme and then the waw. So he says ينطبقان على الباء والميم. When you say ba and meme ينطبقان, the lips, they are not opening. Ba, meme, they are coming in contact with one another. ينطبقان, one on top of the other. وينفتحان عن الواو. The lips come in contact with the waw. The only difference is with the waw, ينفتحان, wow. They come in contact, but they open. They open. This is the difference between meme and ba, with as opposed to the waw. ينطبقان for the meme and the ba, i.e. one lip on top of the other, they come in contact. Ba, meme, like that, and the waw, ينفتحان, they open. So this is the letters of the lips, of both lips. So fa from one lip, waw, ba, and meme from both lips. And finally, walhamdulillah, we come to the final makhraj, which is the khayshum. So this is number 17. And so this is the final makhraj. And this is the khayshum, what we call the nasal cavity. The nasal cavity. So he says, وَهُوَ آخِرُ الْمَخَارِجِ الْغُنَّةِ وتخرج من الخيشوم وهو الأنف وتكون في النون ولو تنوينا والميم الساكنتين حالة الإخفاء. Okay, so we'll explain this now. So the makhraj of noon then is or the makhraj of the ghunna. This is the final makhraj, the makhraj of the ghunna. And it escapes from the nasal cavity. Nasal cavity, وهو الأنف. He says this is the nose. Okay, so your nostrils, your nose. This is the khayshum. تكون في النون. You will find this where? You will find this makhraj when you pronounce the noon. So we dealt with noon. Noon comes from the tongue. We've dealt with the origin of the noon. We've talked about where that comes from, which part of the tongue touches which part of the palate. However, you will also find that it comes from you have the sound coming from, air coming from the nasal cavity. تكون في النون ولو تنوينا, even if that noon has a tanween. والميم الساكنتين. And the meme, when you pronounce meme, you will also feel the air in the nasal cavity. الساكنتين حالة الإخفاء. When both of these letters, noon and meme, have a sakin and you are making ikhfa in them, then you will also feel that airflow in the nasal cavity. So you will feel it with the noon, even if it's got a tanween. You will feel it with the meme. And you will feel it with the meme when it's got a sakin. You will feel with the noon when it's got a sakin when you are performing the rule of ikhfa. And the rule of ikhfa, inshallah, we will deal with when we come to it later on in the text, inshallah. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم وصلي عليه. So this is the final makhraj which Imam Ibn al-Jazari in line number 19 he says وَغُنَّةٌ مَخْرَجُهَا الْخَيْشُومُ, and the gunna, its point of articulation is the nasal cavity. So that's the noon coming from there, whether it's called tanween or whether it has a sakin, and it's the meme which is sakin when you are doing the ikhfa with them. Okay, so that is the final makhraj, and that brings us to the end of today's dars, inshallah. Do we have any questions? How can you get the book? Okay, Zahrul Lisan, yes, that is the surface of the tongue. Zahrul Lisan, the entire surface of the tongue, you call that Zahrul Lisan. You can get the book. The book is available on eBay. It's available on Amazon. It's available on a lot online easily. So if you type in Muqadimah Jazariyah, you should be able to find that online, inshallah, this exact version. It's available in all of those places. And the lessons, inshallah, will go on until, so we are on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays, that's correct. And this will continue. We have 12 sessions, so we now have 10 sessions left, inshallah. So we'll try to continue and complete all of the kitab, inshallah, within those 12 sessions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Any mistakes are from myself, and any good is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala accept our efforts, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who recite the Quran with its due right, and recite the Quran, and be amongst those who, when we recite the Quran becomes our intercessor and an evidence for us, not an evidence against us on the day of judgment, inshallah. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.